What's going on, wrestling fans? Jeff Upson. I'm alongside Erik Knopsnyder. And man, do we have a show for you. You know why? Because we're introducing the Redemption Duel, and we're dropping all 15 matches here tonight. Erik, I'm super psyched about this card. It's weird how it came to fruition. You know, we were talking about putting on an event, and it just so happened that we were able to put on this type of an event where it's all about guys that are getting redemption, right? And it's guys who didn't quite finish, guys and girls who didn't quite finish their season where they wanted to. And this is a chance for a little bit of redemption. So, Erik, I know I'm psyched. Or how excited are you?
Yeah, it seems like, this came together really quickly, but in some ways it feels like we've had to sit on this for a while now because we knew a lot of these matchups, a little while ago, and we've been trying not to, get too much of it out there because we wanted to release it all in a big show here and get everybody excited about it. So it's been kind of like we've been waiting for this for a while now to be like, all right, can we tell people yet? Can we tell people? So the moment's here. We can finally tell everyone what's going on.
Yeah, it's almost like Christmas, right? You're excited to reveal the gifts and tell everyone what's happening. And it's very similar to True Power. So True Power, when we had True Power, it was the top two wrestlers. Normally, we were trying to get the top two wrestlers in the state going head to head. The Redemption Duel is a little bit different. The Redemption is there is no state champions in this. There's no state champions in this. There's guys that finished second. There's guys that finished third. There's guys that didn't even have a season yet. So it's all, every single one of these wrestlers has something to prove, right? And our Surge tournament, our hashtag is Prove It. Redemption is it's all about getting that redemption. Their last match may have not ended with their hand getting raised. This is all about the guys and the girls who wanna, they felt like they left something on the mat. They have something to prove. And I'm just excited to go through all the matches, Erik, because we've got 15 matches. One of those is a high school girls match, which I'm really excited about. All folk style. We're doing it at the C3 Sports up in State College, Pennsylvania. And if you've seen the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club cards, it's the same place where that is. It's going to be an awesome time. We're going to have fans. It's just going to be a lot of fun, Erik. So I know you're excited. What were your thoughts when I first said, hey, let's put on a card and let's call it the Redemption? We're like, come on, Jeff. Like, let's not do another one of those.
I was excited about it. And I mean, the simple fact is almost every wrestler in the state, they don't end their season the way they want to, because everybody wants to go out on top. So, there are so many kids that we could have had in this. And so part of that is just like, okay, how do we, pick the best guys and girls that we can get involved in this and have them be a part of it? Because I know people are contacting you and be like, hey, can we get in this? Like, it's tough sometimes because we can't have everyone in it, as much as we'd love to have a huge event, you got to kind of keep it manageable. And so sometimes the hard part is saying, okay, let's get this person and this person and see if they match up, and how the weights have gone, because we know some weights have gone up quite a bit since the end of the season. Yeah. So things have changed a little bit. But yeah, I'm really excited about the matchups that you were able to put together for us.
And of course, it all comes back to Dyson, right? Dyson puts a bug in my ear. He's like, hey man, wouldn't you like to see this matchup? I'm like, yeah, I would. That would be a lot of fun. Well, why can't we do it? Well, because, Dyson, I have a new baby at home. Because we're busy. Well, I don't care. Let's do it. I'll help. Here we are hosting another event, another card. But yeah, we're really excited about that. And again, it's going to be streamed live on Rokfin. That's Saturday. This Saturday, it starts at 4:00. We're going to have a lot of people there to help us out. Some folks from Westmoreland Sports are going to be there to help us out. We're going to have Greg Warnock and Chris Smith on the call. We're going to have Hannah Mears there as well. It's just going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of good wrestling, and I'm excited for it, Erik. So I think we shouldn't really delay it any further. Now, I wanted the first one. We already announced one matchup, right? So really we're announcing 14 matchups tonight. The first matchup that we released was this one here. And this one was Mason Gibson versus Brennan Cernus. This is a top 10 matchup in the nation. So, and Willie Saylor actually just came out with updated national rankings. And in those rankings, Cernus actually moved up to 9. Mason Gibson holds firm at 5. So if you want to talk about a guy who wants some redemption, it's Mason Gibson, right? I mean, he's a guy who got pinned in the state finals, and I'm not saying he was favored going into the state tournament, but he had beaten, Gary Steen twice, right? Brett Unger just had an amazing month, right? We just saw it come to fruition at the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic. There's no shame in that. However, Mason Gibson still has a lot to prove and a lot, he's a little ticked off about the way he wrestled in Hershey. So this one's going to be a good one just because we don't see a lot of Brendan Cernus. Cernus is a guy who's at Wyman Seminary. He's been in Ohio. I believe he's been in Indiana or Illinois, one of those I states, before coming to Ohio, and then went to Wyman Seminary. We saw him at the Ironman tournament. I got to see him a couple times at the Ironman tournament. Super, super tough. But there's not a lot of common opponents here between these two. So I'm really excited just to see these two match up because we saw Mason go against Aiden Lewis in the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club card. And, he was pushed by Aiden Lewis. So, I'm sure he's hungry after finishing second at the Super 32, finishing second at the state tournament. He's probably not going to want to lose this match here, Eric.
No, absolutely, and as well as I do, Mason. He's always willing to put it on the line and eager to go. I know he was talking about this a week or so ago. He's like, texting me the date and like, yeah, you know what that is. Like he's ready to go. I mean, he's a guy that you don't have to do too much to get him amped up. I know from talking to his family, it just. The kid never sleeps. He's always on the go. So he's ready. He's anxious, and I can't wait to see it. As you said, I haven't gotten to see Cernus in person at all, so I'm anxious to see how this one plays out.
Yeah, so that's our main. This is what I would call our main event. This is our main feature card, match of the card. Again, 2 top 10 guys in the nation, and this is gonna be a good one, right? This is at 125 pounds, so the weights are a little bit more like a catch weight type thing that we're doing here at the Redemption Duel to get guys matched up. So yeah, I'm super excited about this one. This was at 125 pounds. Mason Gibson, Brendan Cernus. These aren't the only wrestlers from these two schools, right? So Bishop McCourt, Wyman Seminary, you're going to see some other names from these schools coming up here in just a couple seconds. So Eric, I think we should just dump the whole card out and then go through them individually. If that's okay with you, you cool with that?
Yeah,
just
let everybody see.
All right,
let everybody see what we got, and then we'll go from there and kind of break it down individually.
I'm cool with that. So this is what we're looking at. This is our full card. This is all 15 matches, and this is in order. So this is in bout order. Again, we're ending with Mason Gibson and Brendan Cernus from Wyman Seminary at 125 pounds. We're kicking things off with Nate Wickersham from Tamaqua versus Josh Harkless from Wilson. We're going to go through one of these, all these individually, but we're just going to kind of go through them right now. Lance Urbas from State College versus Ben Halbert from Palisades at 177 pounds. Luke Simcox from Central Mountain. He's going to be wrestling Gabe Gramley from Mifflinburg. Jude Swisher from Belfont at 143 pounds. Now, Dom Federici from Wyman Seminary is the second Wyman Seminary wrestler on this card. He's probably the one that people don't know necessarily a whole lot about. They're going to, and stay tuned for that. Coen Bainey, Jack Caruso from Delaware Valley. Coen Bainey from Bald Eagle area. Jack Caruso from Delaware Valley. Jack Caruso is the guy who beat state champion Vinny Kilkeary to get to the state finals. That's at 118 pounds. We're super pumped up for that one. Erik Gibson, Dalton Gimber, 157 pounds. Gimber is going to be one of two. The twins here are coming to wrestle. We've seen them at the Surge. We've seen them all throughout their career. We're excited to have the Gimber brothers. Connor Harer versus Eric Aldurfer from Faith Christian Academy. Connor Harer from Montgomery, 143 pounds. So it's our second match on 143. That's because Jude Swisher decided to bulk up because he wants to get big for World Team Trials. So he's like, you know what, we're going to get big. So he wants to go up to 143. So our second match, just as good as that first one with Connor Harer, freshman, Eric Aldurfer, a junior from Faith Christian. 185 pounds, Sammy Starr versus Cole Reese. One of the more interesting matches because Sammy Starr wrestled 172, and when he said he wanted to wrestle, he said, "I'll wrestle anywhere between 170 and 190." You don't normally hear guys say that, but he's like, "I don't care. I want to get out there. I want to wrestle." He looks great at the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic. I think he's going to look good here. But Cole Reese, man, talk about these Wyoming Seminary guys. They have not had the opportunity to wrestle a ton this year because of COVID, because of Wyoming Seminary and the national preps and how their season transpired. Cole Reese hasn't been able to wrestle a whole lot. He was on a Nittany Lion Wrestling Club card, but that's it, right? He hasn't really been wrestling a whole lot. Our girls match is going to feature Maddie Packer from Central Mountain and Kira Kohler from Greenville. These two girls wrestled twice in the PA Girls State Tournament a couple weeks ago, with Packer coming out on top in each one of those, but a very tight match. We're excited to have those two be our featured girls bout at 110 pounds. At 285 pounds, the big boys, Billy McChesney from Greensburg-Salem. He's going to take on Riley Robel from Bishop McDevitt. And Riley Robel is the guy who's a sophomore, was a state qualifier at 182 pounds a year ago, and now jumps up to 285. It was a state runner-up to Nathan Taylor. He's going to be at 285 against Billy McChesney. 114 pounds, Carson Wagner from Northampton, Hunter Robeson from Sagertown. This one is interesting because each one of these came into the state tournament ranked very high in the state. In fact, Carson Wagner came in ranked number 1. 114 pounds, this one's going to be a good one between two guys that wrestled 106 in Hershey. 152 pounds, Ty Linsenbigler, he's from Hempfield area, going to Lock Haven versus Nathan Higley. He is a guy from Sullivan County who was a state runner-up this year. He's headed the George Mason. Two Division I recruits wrestling at 152 pounds. We're really excited about this one. 165 pounds. We said his brothers earlier, his twin brother, Bailey Gimber, at 165 pounds, is going to be wrestling Cole Spencer of Pine Richland. Another great matchup there between two guys that are seniors, head into very prestigious Division I institutions. Bailey Gimber going to F&M, Cole Spencer going to Penn. Then we get down to our younger kids, right? Bo Bassett, he just won his what, Eric? Seventh. So where's that rank him on number of PJW state titles?
Well, as long as you're saying that this is equivalent to a PJW title, which I think most people figure the Keystone State Championship is equivalent to a PJW title, that would tie him for the second most all time.
So Nico Cortez has how many?
He has 8. So Bo can match him next year.
Okay, so Bo Bassett, 103 pounds versus freshman from Wyoming Seminary, Davis Motika. This one is going to be a good one because these two have history. Motika, a little bit lighter. Man, I'm excited for this one. And we're going to end it with Mason Gibson and Brennan Cernus at 125 pounds, Eric. 15 very high level, very impressive matches that we're putting on for you. 4 o'clock on Saturday, streamed live on Rokfin. Man, I'm excited, Eric.
This is going to be it's going to be a lot of fun. Some great matchups here. And as we said, I mean, these kids are going to be hungry, coming off of a performance that they would probably tell you they were a little bit disappointed in the way things finished up. I think all of these kids are really going to be excited to get after it and get another chance to get back on the mat and show that they could have maybe performed a little bit better than they did at the end of the season.
Yeah, and what's nice about this is it's a nice mix of younger and older wrestlers. We have freshmen, we have seniors, we have we have junior high wrestlers, we have girl wrestlers. It's a nice mix.
And you've got double A and you've got triple A.
Right, we have double A and triple A. Most of these wrestlers
and
are
prep.
And prep, right? So most of these wrestlers are we have double A versus triple A head to head. But there is no state champion in this, right? All these wrestlers, they came close for the most part. Some of them didn't have a season. For example, Erik Gibson, right? He was ruled ineligible, he said, I'm not going to appeal it. That's it. National prep wrestlers who didn't have a chance to wrestle in a national prep tournament. So guys that are hungry, but also, they haven't been on the mat. They want to show what they're made of. So yeah, super excited about these matches. So let's start with our first matchup here. And that's going to be, let me move this out of the way so you can see everything here. Nate Wickersham from Tamaqua versus Josh Harkless from Wilson West Lawn. Now, I like this match for a number of reasons, Eric. One, Nate Wickersham's undecided. He's a 2-time state medalist. So he was 8th a year ago, and this year he was 3rd at 220 pounds. Josh Harkless, on the other hand, he was a state qualifier last year. He moves up to 215 pounds, where he's a state runner-up. And remember, he went 1-2 against the state champion Jake Lucas. They went to overtime in that state finals match, in which Lucas ended up winning that one. And then Lucas turns around and wins in the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic over a top 15 guy in Emmanuel Skillings from Oklahoma. So that just shows you how close Harkless was to really, breaking through and getting a state championship after beating him in the Super Regional, losing him to the South Central Regional, but then losing to him again in the state finals in overtime. Nate Wickersham, on the other hand, I think he has a lot to prove, and I think he wants to show college coaches like, hey, I should be recruited. I'm a 2-time state medalist in the state of Pennsylvania. Why aren't I not committed yet?
Yeah, and that's, we talked about it last week a little bit about how crazy college recruiting is right now with COVID and with all the things that college coaches are facing, that, they didn't know what seniors are coming back that, could use that extra year of eligibility. They didn't know maybe what their budget situation is going to be like as far as scholarships, all that stuff. So, I mean, I think this is probably the craziest season we've seen for recruiting, and how difficult it can be for coaches and for kids. And so this is getting dragged out a lot longer than we've seen in past instances. So I think for a couple of these guys, this the redemption duel is going to be really important for them to get their name out there one more time and say, hey, look, guys, I'm still out here. Look my way and maybe give me a little money and, get me into your program.
Yeah, and he's not the only one who's not committed to college and a senior. So, a lot of when we were looking at the matchups and trying to get guys on the card was, looking for those top seniors who weren't committed, who were interested in wrestling in college and just haven't had the opportunity to, to really put themselves out on the map. And, there's going to be a lot of Division I college coaches watching this broadcast. There's going to be a lot of recruiters who are looking at this and saying, hey, I need to get this guy, especially if Wickersham's able to get a win here. So, for Harkless, he's going to Rochester Institute of Technology, so RIT is a very good school. Harkless is a guy who I think is going to be a force, and I think we saw him kind of be a late bloomer, but we saw him kind of come on to his own towards the end of his career, and I think really we haven't seen quite the best of Josh yet. So I'm really excited for this one. This is going to kick us off here at 220 pounds. I'm excited for this first match here, Eric. Let's go to our second match, and that is going to be Lance Urbas from State College. He's headed to Penn versus Ben Halbert of Palisades, and he's going to the Citadel. So two very highly accomplished wrestlers in the state, Lance Urbas and Ben Halbert. Lance is of course the younger brother of Cole, who we've talked about for years, and he's now at Penn. Lance, on the other hand, what's interesting about these two, each one of these two had season-ending injuries. So Lance Urbas was a district qualifier. I think he was 6th in the district, in District 6 his freshman year. Not a spectacular freshman campaign, but a good year. He gets injured and misses all of his sophomore year. Ben Halbert, on the other hand, he comes in to his freshman campaign as a highly touted freshman. He was on our top incoming freshman report. He only wrestles 2 matches in the season. First weekend of the year, gets hurt, misses the rest of the season. So each one of these wrestlers has missed a season, and both these wrestlers ended up finishing on the podium high in Hershey. Lance Urbas has a win this year over Sammy Starr in the consolation semifinals at 172 pounds, and Sammy Starr was one of the the guys that is also on the card, but one of the bigger names coming into the tournament. Lance Urbas finally gets on the podium. He takes 4th. On the flip side, Ben Halbert loses last year, goes 1-2 at the state tournament despite winning a regional title. This year he comes in, he goes 1-0. He loses to Rune Lawrence 1-0, bounces back, finishes 5th. This is where the redemption part comes in. He loses to Jake Jones from Saucon Valley. He had beaten Jake Jones 3 times, 3 times prior to this in the season, loses to him in the consolation semifinals. That didn't leave a good taste in his mouth, Eric.
No, and I was thinking about the redemption duel. We can't quite give them that season back that they each lost to injury, but this is a little extension of this season and give them one more chance to get out there and, as you said, kind of build on what they were able to do in the state tournament.
Yeah, and obviously both these guys go into Division One schools. The Citadel and Penn. Both these guys are very accomplished wrestlers, but I think both of them have something left to prove. One finished fourth in the state, the other one finished fifth. And Ben Hauer, as I said, I would say he probably coming into the state tournament was the fourth best wrestler. Gavin Garcia is one of those guys he lost to in the super regional tournament, but he's a guy who was 21-1 coming into the medal round of the state tournament, loses 1-0 to the eventual state champion, then loses to a guy that he had beaten 3 times before. He does bounce back to take fifth, but I think he kind of jumped all over it because he's thinking, man, I got something left to prove here. So this is going to be at 177 pounds, Lance Urbas and Ben Hauer in our second match. Now, the third match, we talked about the seniors. This one's a contrast of where they're at in their careers because Luke Simcox from Central Mountain is a freshman. Gabe Gramley from Mifflinburg is a senior. In fact, you see there, Eric, where's he going? He's going to Pitt.
I
right?
believe he is going to Pitt, yes.
He's going to Pitt, right? So I know you're excited about that. Gabe Gramley was a 2-time state medalist, 4-time state qualifier. He qualified for the state tournament 4 times. This year, he was in that loaded 126-pound in District 4. And you remember when we had Mitch Rupert on talking about 126. Remember a wrestler that we had in True Power who never even made it to the super regional tournament. That was Cole Bisco, right? That was a guy who was in this 126-pound bracket and out of District 4. And if you look at how they finished, of course, Scott Johnson loses to Joey Fisher. He finishes second. Gable Strickland, he finishes third in the state. He beats Gabe Gramley 2-1 in ultimate tiebreaker, who finishes in fourth place. Cole Bisco doesn't get a chance, although he probably would have been fifth or sixth in the state. 2 guys here who I think are hungry to go after it. This is the first matchup that we have on the card where these two have actually gone head-to-head. Luke Simcox beat Gabe Gramley 3-1 in January of this year in a dual meet. So I'm sure Gramley is looking for a little bit of redemption here. But Simcox, on the flip side, I think he's looking for a little bit of redemption after his state tournament because, remember, he beat state champion Ethan Bergen at the Super Region. This time he comes in, he loses to Tyler Kasak from Becca in the semifinals, who, of course, goes on to win a state title. But Simcox drops a 6-3 match to Bergen in the consolation semifinals. He comes back to take fifth. So both these guys have a little bit of something to prove, even though they're in different parts of their careers.
Well, and that's what I like about it is that, as you mentioned, that they are in different parts of their careers. So, it'll be interesting. Does it mean maybe a little bit more to a Gabe Gramley who's closing out his high school career? Or is it Simcox saying, hey, I've really got to build on what I was able to do my freshman year, and let's use this as a springboard into freestyle and into next season and really kind of get going with another victory here over a really talented senior in Gabe Gramley?
Yeah, I would agree with you there, Eric. It's of course, each one of these are on different trajectories, but Luke Simcox is he was such a touted freshman coming into here, so and he already has the win over Gabe Gramley. So for him, it's like, well, I already beat him once. I'm a freshman. I got to beat him again. For Gramley, it's like, well, I'm a senior. I'm going to Pitt. I'm a Division I recruit. I can't be losing to a freshman. So, and of course, these guys are both battle tested, right? Both of these guys have had their share of battles this year. Gabe Gramley, my gosh, him and Gable Strickland and Scott Johnson wrestled about 900 times, and you throw in Cole Bisco. So, these guys are very well, tested when it comes to wrestling. And of course, they went head to head. So, really looking forward to that one. Let's go up to our first 143-pound matchup. It's the first of 2. Jude Swisher of Bellefonte, Dom Federici from Wyoming Seminary. Federici is a guy who not a lot of people are going to be familiar with, and that's because he's a freshman and he's at Wyoming Seminary, and we haven't gotten a chance to see him. And, of course, his counterpart, when we talk about him, Davis Motika, is also a guy who we haven't seen really a lot of this year. What's interesting here, Eric, is these two wrestled literally, 4 days ago. They wrestled on Saturday. Now, they wrestled in freestyle. They wrestled at Spooky Nook. Journeyman Frank Populizio held the New York State Championship there in Spooky Nook in Pennsylvania, which is crazy, but he did a great job there. Dom Federici and Jude Swisher end up being in the same bracket for the high school open, if you will. Now, this was in freestyle. So get this. Jude Swisher, a junior, right? He's been ranked in the nation. He's a guy who has had a good career. He finished 4th in the state as a sophomore. This year he finished 3rd in the state. He beat a very tough Nathan Lucier to finish 3rd after losing to Dylan Chappell. So he had a great season. He's bulking up for World Team Trials. He runs into freshman Federici at the Journeyman. He's up 8-0 after 1 period. Now, in freestyle, tech falls 10 points. So you're up 8-0 after the first period. What happens? Federici battles back. These two exchange points in a flurry. What ends up happening is Federici ends up winning 11-11 on criteria. Jude Swisher, after this was over, he was like, I want this match and I want it bad. And here we go. This is happening. Now, this is going to be folk style. This is folk style. But, man, can Federici hang? I think he can.
So this is double redemption for Jude Swisher.
Kind of, yeah.
He's looking for redemption from the season, and he's looking for redemption against Federici.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both,
Yeah.
right? It's redemption from obviously the match on Saturday, but it's redemption for him, not finishing on top of the podium, right? I mean, I'm sure he thinks, like, I go head-to-head with Briar Priest. I beat him. I want that match back with Dylan Chappell. Again, he beat a very tough Nathan Lucier for 3rd place, but I'm sure he's hungry. And for Federici, he hasn't had a season. He's just a freshman, but can he hang? You're darn right he can hang, Eric. So really looking forward to this one. What were your thoughts when you saw this one come to the card?
Well, it's interesting for me because I think, Wyoming Seminary, we know that historically they don't go a ton of places. Their idea isn't to wrestle in every event that's out there. They kind of, Coach Green kind of picks his spots for where his guys are going to go and what they're going to compete in. And, this year's a little different, obviously, because of COVID, that they haven't had that normal schedule that they're normally following. So this time, we're able to get some of those Wyoming Seminary kids, and I'm really excited to have them be a part of that, the redemption duel, and see how they can perform here. And, it should be a fun one, like we said, because at first I didn't know much about Dom Federici, and I was like, okay, who's this wrestling Swisher? But as you said, we found out pretty quickly with the result last week.
Yeah, we really did. And, what comes to mind is Kennedy Blades. Scott Green had been talking about Kennedy Blades, and she's been at Wyoming Seminary training, and, she was on a card, and, she's going to be really good. She's going to be really good. And all of a sudden, look what happens. Like, look at the Olympic team trials, and she breaks out. So what they're doing at Wyoming Seminary is working because, these guys are performing at a high level, despite the fact that they're not wrestling in competitions every weekend. We're not seeing Wyoming Seminary at Powerade, at Ironman, at the National Prep Tournament. We're not seeing this. So it's hard to say where they're at, but clearly I think they're in a good position, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm not doubting what Coach Green is doing at all. What he does absolutely works for his guys, and he knows that they don't need. Sometimes at a smaller school, you need to get in all those tournaments because you need to be able to catch an eye here or there and get someone's attention. But everybody knows where Wyoming Seminary is and where to find them, so there's no worry there about getting enough attention for their guys as far as college coaches go.
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right on that end. And let's go up to our next match here. And of course that last one was at 143. This one we're gonna bring to you in a second. I'm gonna put it up on the screen. Coen Bainey versus Zach Jacaruso. So this is at 118 pounds. Now Coen Bainey is a guy you've covered a lot this year, Eric, and he's had his ups and downs for sure. He's looked really good, and then there's other times you're like, what happened? Zach Jacaruso, on the other hand, maybe kind of took people by surprise at the state tournament. He had never made a PIAA state tournament as a freshman. This year as a sophomore, he stuns kind of the wrestling world in Pennsylvania and beats returning state champion Vinny Kilkeary. In the semifinals, moves on to the finals. He wrestles Jacob Van D to overtime, loses in the finals. He was that close to kind of completing the Cinderella story and winning a state title. Jacaruso's a name that most people know now. Coen Bainey, of course, the name Bainey is well known in the Bald Eagle area. now you look at Bainey and what he was able to do. He had a great regional tournament, and the state tournament he loses to Chris Vargo, who he had beaten before. They've gone back and forth. What can you tell us a little bit about Coen Bainey here, Eric?
I'll be really interested to see how he can push Jackaruso, because I think we all, kind of in the Kilcarry match, Jackaruso was able to use an injury time and a couple breaks here and there, some issues, because you wondered if the gas tank was really there to close out that match with Kilcarry. And full credit to Zach, because he did it. He was able to get that victory. But I wonder, if Coen can push that pace, especially now that we're a couple of weeks out. That was whenever you would think that you were in prime condition. What's Jackaruso going to be like right now? Because he was, after that Kilcarry match especially, he couldn't even stand up. I mean, he was on the floor for a while trying to get up after that. So I'll be interested. And again, this is a couple weeks after the season, so I think guys maybe aren't going to be quite as good at conditioning as maybe they were back in March. But we'll see how it goes and see if Coen can really push that pace and force that action out of Jackaruso.
So you had obviously you covered Coen, and he had a great super regional, right, where he won the super regional, and he had a bad regional tournament, and I know why did he have a bad regional tournament, Eric?
Apparently it was all the Reese's cups with the problem.
The Reese's cups.
Yeah, he said that, and again, young kids sometimes have to learn this, that it really is important what you put into your body on that day of competition. And he said that at the regional, he really wasn't doing it right. He drank too much, he ate too much, the Reese's cups were a bad idea. And then he got to the super regional, and he said we really took a look at it and just ate healthier, got a couple body armor drinks in him, and that was it. He didn't go out there sluggish and slow and fall behind early like he did the first time against Vargo.
Well, and so the last time they wrestled was in that third and fourth place match. So Coen Bainey comes into the medal round of the state tournament 22-1, right? He wins his first match, loses to the eventual state runner-up Gavin Bradley. He bounces back down to the consolation round, where he loses to Chris Vargo, who I thought Vargo had a great end to his season, right? Because he's had up and downs. And Coen Bainey, this is where the redemption comes in, right? He loses to Vargo, a freshman, after winning the super regional. You got to think that Coen Bainey is wants to show something, and what better way to do that than to wrestle Jackaruso, who's one of the biggest names now after the state tournament, having knocked off Vinny Kilcarry. And you had mentioned preparation. Who's to say Jackaruso had a bad weight cut or maybe ate something? Because remember, that state tournament in Hershey was just a one-day tournament, right? So it's not like the traditional 3-day tournament. If I had a bad meal on Thursday, by Saturday I'm okay, right? Jackaruso only had one day to perform. So yeah, I know there was a lot of talk about his conditioning, but man, I'm excited to see two young wrestlers that are both sophomores that I think are hungry to prove that they belong in those talks about some of the best in the state, Eric.
Well, and as you said, Jackaruso, even as well as he did at the state tournament, in some ways, he's looking for redemption that, hey, I can go a full 6 minutes
right,
and I can really push the pace that, what you saw there wasn't maybe the way that he wanted to win that one. But I'll be interested. You're right. Maybe he can do exactly that and go out and say, hey, look, I'm in great shape. That was just kind of a bad day, as you said, in terms of the way he looked and was able to close out matches. But yeah, absolutely. Give him the chance to go out there and show that, hey, I can go for 6 minutes hard with no breaks, with nothing.
And let's not forget, he pushed, Jacob Van D. He went to overtime with him, right? It's not like he beats Kilcarry, he lays down, and then, he just goes out, without fighting in the state finals. I mean, he looked better in the state finals in losing than I thought he did in winning against Kilcarry. I mean, to be honest with you.
That's
you know what I'm saying?
That's absolutely the case, yeah.
And he was able to get that takedown on Kilcarry. And then I don't know if it's a mental thing, where you just kind of like, you shut down a little bit, you slow down, right? I don't think it's going to happen again. I think Jackaruso is going to come after Bainey, and I think they both are. So this is probably one of the more excited matches of the evening on Saturday, because I think they're just both young, hungry guys that are looking to put up points on the board. So really looking forward to that one. I mean, you're going to sound like a broken record because I'm going to say that for 14 more times, however many more matches we have to talk about. This next one, of course, Erik Gibson, Bishop McCourt. The redemption here for Erik Gibson is he did not have a postseason. So he beats the state champion, Grant McKay, twice this season. Beat him 5-2 twice. He watches Grant McKay win a state title. He watches AJ Corrado win a state title at 160. He beat AJ Corrado the following week, or whatever long it was, at the King of the Keystone, the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club card. The guy wants some redemption, right? We saw him in True Power. In fact, he beat AJ Corrado there. Was not able to try to get a state title this year after finishing third as a freshman, sixth as a sophomore after injury defaulting. On the other hand, you've got Dalton Gimber from Hamburg. So one of two Gimber twins here in this in the redemption. He had a very interesting postseason because he finishes third in the Super Region, but ends up getting a win over the East Super Regional champion Devin Deem in the semifinals, 9-5. And Dalton looked great at the state tournament. And I say state tournament, I mean the medal round. He beats freshman Connor Yoder from North Star, who you're very familiar with. He beats him 5-0. Then he beats junior Devin Deem from Montgomery 9-5, a very good match. And then he goes the distance with Grant McKay, loses 1-0. If he's able to get off bottom, that probably goes to overtime. And for Dalton Gimber, that was huge for him in his career. That was the highest he's ever finished at the state tournament. I think he had a great end, but I think he was very, very close, but yet fell a little bit short, Eric, in Hershey, to the ultimate goal of winning a state title.
Yeah, and these are two guys that we've seen a lot of over the years. So it'll be interesting to see this matchup and how they go at it head to head. As you said, Gibson has the wins over McKay, while Gimber had the loss to him. But you know how that works out sometimes. It's not always the way guys that match up. Just because guy A beats guy B doesn't mean guy B can beat C and C beat A. It kind of goes all that confusion sometimes, because a lot of times the styles make such a big difference in how guys match up. Because as you said, Gibson just seems to have Corrado's number, that every time they wrestle, it seems like Gibson is able to get a win there, and oftentimes in kind of convincing fashion. But there are guys that I think Corrado maybe can beat that Gibson struggles with. So it's just kind of the way guys match up.
Yeah, I mean, it's that clash of styles, right? And Dalton Gimber, like I said, loses 1-0 to McKay. Gibson beats him 5-2, but I thought Gibson and McKay, that was a hard match, right? That was a good match between those two. For Dalton, and Dalton's had an up and down career. So he has 147 wins in his career. He was a state qualifier his freshman year at Brandywine Heights. His sophomore year, he ends up taking 8th at the state tournament when he transferred to Hamburg. The next year, you go from 8th in the state. He never even made it to the state tournament his junior year. So, this year for him was a redemption year. He goes, qualifier, 8th, doesn't qualify, to now 2nd in the state in Hershey, to cap a really tremendous career for Hamburg. And of course the Gimber, the twins, of course, on their brothers as well. Hunter and Trevor, I got to look up the Gimber, the family career total wins, because it's probably close to 500. I mean, it's they wrestled a ton of matches. So, I'm excited for this one. For one reason, I want to see Erik Gibson and how hungry he is, but I want to see Dalton Gimber to say, hey, I can hang with Erik Gibson, who's ranked number 10 in the country. And Dalton's going to F&M. Erik Gibson's going to Cornell. So both these guys are doing it in on the mat and also in the classroom, because you can't get into F&M and Cornell with just, grades. You got to have some pretty good grades, Eric.
Absolutely. Two very good kids in the classroom, as you said, as well as on the mat. That is always fun whenever you guys, that guys are well-rounded, and it's not just all athletics, that they're also putting the time in the classroom and hitting the books to make sure that they can further their career at the collegiate level.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing a lot of, Division I recruits on the card, but like I said, a lot of guys here who aren't committed to college yet, and guys that are looking to make a name for themselves. Let's go up to our next match. This is 143 pounds, and this is our second at 143. This is Connor Harer from Montgomery versus Erik Gibson from Faith Christian Academy. So a matchup here where I want to go back to the super regional tournament, because Alderfer won that super regional tournament. Now, you look back at the bracket that Alderfer was in, 138. Now, let's keep in mind, Alderfer was 132 at the Powerade tournament. He beats Nathan Roth from Latrobe in a good match. I don't know if it's the weight cut or what, but he says, I'm going back up to 138. So Alderfer goes up from 132 back up to 138. He has a great super regional tournament. So he wins the Southeast regional tournament, beats David Kreidler in that tournament. He comes out, gets into the finals. He beats Ian Yoder in the semifinals 5-4. He gets to the finals. He beats David Kreidler from Allentown Central Catholic 3-1, wins the super region. On the other side, you have Connor Harer from Montgomery, who came into the super region as a Northeast regional champion, 32-1 on the year. Probably one of the biggest names as a freshman. He was just absolutely dominating people out of District 4. And remember when we had Mitch Rupert on, Eric, he said, I got to get my eyes on him. I got to see him. And he was like, holy crap. He's for real. He doesn't wrestle like a freshman. He's wrestling at a high level for a freshman. He tech falls Connor Brown in the first round of the super regional, loses to David Kreidler 2-1. Then Connor comes back. He beats Josh Bauman from Notre Dame 1-0, ends up taking third at the super regional tournament. Now, you fast forward then to the state tournament, and what did we say? We said Connor Harer and Ian Oswalt is going to be a great first-round matchup. And what happened? It goes to ultimate tiebreaker. So you have a freshman versus a senior. Connor Harer, not the super region he wanted. Ian Oswalt trying to get back to the state finals for the second year in a row against Brock McMillan. He has his hands full in that opening round, barely survives 2-1 against Connor Harer. He ends up making it to the finals. Connor Harer, on the flip side, he ends up falling in the consolation semifinals. He ends up getting revenge on David Kreidler to finish fifth. Alderfer takes fourth. They both lost to Amon Ol from St. Joseph Catholic Academy in the state tournament. There's a lot of comparables here. It's insane that these two haven't hit each other, right? They're in the same super region. They're in the same, obviously state tournament bracket. They wrestled the same guys, but they haven't hit each other, right? And I'm excited for this one because I think the styles match up very well.
Yeah, I was looking at that as well, and I'm thinking, how do these guys not face each other whenever they're in, if it's a 20-man state bracket, you can kind of see, okay, maybe they fell differently. But you're thinking in an 8-man bracket, how do they not face each other whenever they're so close right there? It just didn't work out. But you're right. They have, they both wrestled Oswalt. They both wrestled Ole. They both wrestled Kreidler. So a lot of common opponents there. It just didn't work out for them to hit. So awesome that we're able to put this together and get them on the mat together here.
Yeah, and like you said, they both lose to Ian Oswalt. Alderfer wins 4-0 in his opening round match to the state semifinals. So the comparables here: Ian Oswalt, Harer loses to him 2-1 in ultimate tiebreaker. Alderfer loses him 2-0 in the state semifinals. Amon Ol beats Connor Harer 6-0 in the consolation semifinals. Then Amon Ol beats Erik Alderfer 2-0. So, it's all transitive property, but I think this one's going to be a really good matchup. I think both these guys are hungry and it really should be a good clash of styles here at 143 pounds, Eric. Let's go up to our next match. This one, again, I talked about it. Sammy Starr said, I'll wrestle anywhere between 170 and 190. And, we settled on 185 here. So Sammy Starr, he needs some redemption for him. And here's why. And I would say the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic was a little bit of redemption for him. But he beat, at the Super Regional Tournament, he beat Lance Urbas from State College, who also is on our card. He beats him and then loses to Trey Kibe in overtime. You almost kind of assume that Sammy Starr was going to make it to the semifinals against Trey Kibe in the state tournament, which he does. He loses 4-2. But in the consolation semifinals, it was Sammy Starr who fell to Lance Urbas in the consolation semifinals. I would say probably coming into the state tournament, Starr was probably the third best wrestler here, right? He took Augustine to overtime. He took Trey Kibe to overtime. And he had just beaten Lance Urbas the week prior. In fact, I believe it was a I believe it was a major decision when they wrestled at the Super Regional Tournament. I'm going to have to look that up, Eric. But Urbas gets the better of him in that match. Starr bounces back to take fifth, and Urbas takes fourth here. So I think for Sammy, we kind of saw it at the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic. He wants to wrestle high-level competition. Now, Cole Reese, on the other hand, he's a guy who says, hey, I should have been on the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic card. I'm one of the best wrestlers in the state at 182 pounds. He was upset that he wasn't asked to be on the state or the Team PA for the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic, and for good reason. He's one of the best in the nation. He's going to Campbell University. I can't fault him for that. So, a guy who I think is looking to make a little bit of an impact here, because he hasn't had a season yet. He's a senior. He's going to Campbell, Eric.
Yeah, he's I believe ranked 10th in the country by Matt Scout. So that's a guy that, yeah, absolutely. You can see why he's upset about not being on the team there. But this is a great chance for him to get back out there and beat a really quality guy in Sammy Starr. So I think this is a pretty good and fun matchup as well.
Yeah, as you mentioned, so when you look at the national rankings, Cole Reese does come in ranked number 10 by Willie Saylor in the Matt Scout rankings. So, and Sammy Starr is a guy who was in the national rankings because he was a Super 32 medalist, right? So he had been in the state or the national rankings this year. And of course, you look at Luke Augustine and Trey Cobb, two guys that he went to overtime with. They're ranked 5th and 6th in the nation. So clearly, he's a guy who can hang. He lost to Ruin Lawrence this year. I think he has something to prove here. And I think both these guys do. And the fact that Sammy said, I'll wrestle you at any weight, you just name it, I think just shows the type of wrestler he is and how he's ready. Cole Reese, on the flip side, I think the fact that he says, I should have been that guy in the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic shows like what he thinks of his abilities. And, and here's another thing. Sammy Starr is not committed to a college yet. He's a state qualifier last year. He was a state medalist this year. I know he's got some looks and I know he's got some offers, but he is not committed. So I think this is a guy who could turn some heads depending on what happens against Cole Reese, Eric.
Yeah, I would think absolutely. If he's able to find a way to beat Cole Reese here, that would be a huge eye opener for a lot of college coaches. Pretty tall task, but we've seen what Sammy can do before, and it wouldn't be all that shocking if we were to pull off an upset here.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's crazy to think because you go up a weight, you wrestle him, and you knock him off. The number 10 guy in the nation. It would be pretty impressive. So let's go up to our next match, and this one is going to be the girls' match that we're having, and this is 110 pounds. This is Maddie Packer of Central Mountain versus Kira Cola of Greenville. So interesting tidbit here. These two wrestled again. I mentioned that at the girls' state tournament, the My House girls' state tournament, and this was what I want to say 2 weeks ago at Spooky Nook. And this one was they wrestled twice. So they wrestled in the first round of the state tournament. This was at 108 pounds. Maddie ends up getting a 4-2 win in the first round over Kira. Packer then ends up falling in the semifinals. And remember, this is the same bracket where we had Andy Subishin from Fort LaBeouf, who we saw at True Power and who we saw throughout the year. She was a regional qualifier. She ends up losing in the finals here. So Packer finishes third in a weight class where Andy Subishin finishes second. So after they wrestle in that first round matchup, they end up wrestling again in the consolation semifinals. Kohler, she on the back end, she fall in 35, fall in 132, fall in 47 seconds, all to get back to a rematch with Maddie Packer. Packer ends up beating her in sudden victory 6-4, and then Packer wins in her third place match by fall in 37 seconds. So, you can make the argument that Kohler was maybe the fourth best wrestler in the weight here. Whatever, it doesn't matter. They're gonna go for a third match here, and Packer, for her, what does she have to prove here? Well, I don't know if she has a whole lot to prove because she already beat the girl twice. But for Kira, I mean, hey, you lost her twice in two two type matches, why not try to take a stab at the next one or the third time around? I love it. Biff Walliser from Central Mountain. Central Mountain's one of the schools that's has a girls wrestling team officially for their program. They're one of a handful of teams. We know North Allegheny and Gettysburg, but they're one of the teams that has a girls wrestling program. And I think Maddie Packer has really come on to her own. I think she's earned the respect of the boys teammates as well. And I think she's I think she's showing what she's about. And for Kira Kohler, I think this is a good opportunity for her to say, hey, I may not have lost to you twice in one day, but I'm going to beat you this time.
Yeah, and I mean, as you said, both of those matches were close. It was a 2-point in regulation match and then a sudden victory match. So Kohler is obviously right there with Packer, and it'll be great to see. One of the things that you didn't talk about too much is we're doing this in folk style too. I know the girls, don't wrestle too much folk style, so it'll be interesting to see them going at it in folk style here. It's something that usually when they wrestle folk style, it's only against boys. So it's a good chance to see, and we saw that at the Classic as well, where we were able to get a big fall there. And just interesting to see the differences between girls competing in folk style when we're used to seeing it in freestyle.
Yeah, it is interesting, right? And I know there's that huge debate about freestyle, folk style with the girls, and Craig Nellis, co-director of the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic, and I had this conversation. He was like, so you're telling me I have a son and a daughter, right? They both want to wrestle. I have to teach my son a different way of wrestling, and I have to teach my daughter almost a completely different way. Now, I mean, it's not completely different, but it's not apple and oranges, but it's certainly a different type of orange or a different type of apple. I have to teach them different ways. Like I can't take my boy and my girl to the same tournament to wrestle the same style. And you're like, man, you're right. It is. So, we decided to go folk style with this because, despite the fact that they're wrestling freestyle the next level and the state tournaments mostly across the nation are in freestyle. But hey, college wrestling and girls is getting stronger, right? So I don't know. I'm excited to see this happen, and we saw that with Montana DeLauder, right? I mean, she gets on top, and just she's a bear on top, right? Because she's been wrestling boys and she's been wrestling folk style, and she gets to fall. So I agree with you here. 110 pounds. I'm excited to see Maddie Packer and Kira Kohler go at it for a third time in just a number of weeks here at State College, Eric.
Yeah, it should be fun. Obviously we love having girls matches on the cards as well. Anything we can do to promote girls wrestling and help the sanctioned PA movement, I think is a great step forward for the sport.
Yeah, totally agree. And, that's why we knew we couldn't have the card without a girls match on it, especially after True Power and how great that was to have two matches on there. And, I'd love to have just an all girls match, like in True Power eventually one day as well. Let's go up to our next match. And this one is where the big boys come in. So this is Big Billy McChesney from Greensburg, Salem. And of course, in the photo, he's rocking his PA Power State medalist shirt, which I love. Billy McChesney from Greensburg, Salem. He's a junior. Riley Robel from Bishop McDevitt, a sophomore. Now, this is interesting because Riley Robel comes up to heavyweight after wrestling down at 182 last year. He's from Bishop McDevitt. He's a name that I've been hearing for quite a long time. And this year you kind of felt like, it was his time to make a statement. And of course, who does he wrestle in that first open round match, Eric, but Jalen Stevens, a guy who was number one in the state for majority of the year. Riley Robel beats him 5-0. He gets a fall in the semifinals, and I'll tell you what, he pushed Nathan Taylor very, very hard in that state finals match. Nathan Taylor, he's going to Lehigh. He was a state champion this year, but Riley Robel was very close to getting an upset there. Of course, Riley Robel, that was his first loss on the season. So that's one side of the coin. And then you look at the other side. You've got Big Billy McChesney, who literally has been wrestling Isaiah Vance. I think they wrestled 6 times this year. I'm going to have to double check. I think they wrestled 6 times. But, of course, they ended the season wrestling together. Isaiah Vance beat him for 3rd place at the state tournament after Sean Kinney upset Isaiah Vance. And you look at Billy McChesney. He gets pinned by Nate Schoen in, I think, a minute at the Super Regional Tournament. This next time around, they wrestle in the state semifinals. Nate Schoen beats him 6-4, and I'll tell you what, Billy McChesney really pushed the pace in that one too. I thought he almost had the upset over Nate Schoen. He was very close in that match. McChesney, and I think you're right. I think he wrestled 6 times because he had 5 losses coming into here. Maybe even 5 times. They wrestled Isaiah Vance. He came into the state tournament 23-6, and I'm pretty sure at least 4 of those losses were Isaiah Vance.
Six matches this year against Vance. Yep.
Is that what it was? 6 matches?
Yep.
That's unbelievable. So 6, and he didn't win any of them, correct? Right?
No, he did win one.
Oh, that's right. No, that's right. He won at the section tournament. That's right.
Yeah.
He won at the section tournament because Chris Smith, one of the best to ever come from Greensburg. I don't forget the Joneses. Chris Smith gave him the Westmoreland Sports shirt. I forget what it was called, but he presented him the shirt, one line to the next. So you're right. Billy McChesney did have a win over Isaiah Vance. And you look at McChesney, he wrestled. So if those who are tuned into Rokfin, he wrestled in the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club card. Who did he wrestle, Eric?
I don't remember.
He wrestled
put me
Nathan,
on the spot here.
He wrestled Nathan Taylor. He wrestled.
Oh, okay.
He wrestled Nathan Taylor. So he lost to Nathan Taylor at the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club event. Nathan Taylor beats Riley Robel in the state finals. We got a common opponent. We got 2 guys that are young, sophomore, junior. Hey, why not have this match, Eric?
Well, what was the score of that Nittany Lion Wrestling
Club? So
I
put you on the spot. Now you put me on the spot.
Exactly. I had to get you back for that.
I'll look it up. Hold on. You keep talking while I look it up.
Yeah, McChesney is. I assume he's a football player, right?
He's
I'm
a big-time
impressed.
Football player. Yeah,
I'm impressed that he was willing to do this. Because a lot of those big guys, football is their main priority, and they'll kind of wrestle whenever they can squeeze it in. So I full credit to Billy McChesney for saying, hey, yeah, I'll go ahead and do a wrestling match in April. Whenever a lot of those guys will be saying, oh no, I'm back in the weight room. I'm ready. I'm already getting ready for football season.
And I think he does track too. I think he throws.
Yeah, I'm looking at his Twitter now. You're right. He does track.
I'm pretty sure he does track. Hannah Mears knows. Hannah Mears has been covering Billy McChesney for a long time. She's covered him on the football field, on the mat, and also probably, what do they call it when the track, the field. And Nate Cobbler, our good friend, it was 3-1. Says that Nathan Taylor beat Billy McChesney 3-1. So you have a 3-1 decision. Nate Taylor over Billy McChesney, and then Riley Robel loses 5-3 to Nathan Taylor. So 2 very comparables here.
Yeah, and going back a second, Hannah Mears, it doesn't surprise me she knows everything about it. Hannah Mears knows everything, doesn't she? She's awesome. I'm so excited to have Hannah Mears being part of the team on the broadcast.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have her. Chris Smith, of course, our very own Greg Warnock. But
I tweeted during the Olympic trials that I thought Westmoreland Sportsnet should be doing it because they would do a better job than NBC did with their Peacock did with it.
And then Chris,
that was trash coverage.
Chris Smith was like, "Yeah, we'll do it. Yeah, come on." I'm like, "Chris, you do realize this is the Olympic trials, right? It's you can't, you can't just, I love Chris because Chris is like,
just show up.
There's a wall. Chris is running right through it. He doesn't care. There's no hurdles. There's no barriers. He doesn't care. Get it done. Flickinger on the other hand, he's a little bit more like me. He's like, we gotta do things. So 285, I'm really excited for this one because of, just the fact that Billy McChesney's coming off a loss, 2 losses, losing to Isaiah Vance and then Nate Taylor. Riley Robel coming off a loss to Nate Taylor in the state finals. I think there's a lot to be redeemed here at 285 pounds, Eric.
Yeah, should be a fun one there.
All right, let's go up to our next match, and this one is going to be Carson Wagner versus Hunter Robeson from Sagertown. Now, again, I talked about this when we previewed them earlier. Carson Wagner came into the state tournament ranked number 1 in the state. Now, he was the only wrestler at 106 pounds this year that was a returning state medalist. So, naturally, he came in ranked number 1. He was pushed, this year a little bit, but Northampton, he only came into the state tournament with 11 matches. He was 11-0 coming into the state medal round. Now, if you remember, he loses to Cale Nasdio from Williamsport in that opening round 3-1. Carson Wagner was number 1 in the state. Tyler Chappell, on the other hand, was number 2 in the state. Tyler Chappell beats Carson Wagner in the consolation semifinals 2-0 in sudden victory. So we talk about redemption. Carson Wagner comes in undefeated, number 1 in the state, ends up going home with a 5th place medal. Probably not a good feeling for him. Hunter Robeson, on the other hand, again, same kind of scenario with him. And you got to talk to him after the Super Regional, right, Eric? And he had a good tournament there. Super Regional, ends up winning it. And the two guys that finished in the state 1 and 2, he finished ahead in the Super Regional tournament. So, for Hunter Robeson, my gosh, you lose to Louis Gill, who was 3rd in the West Super Region, and you were the Super Regional champion.
Yeah, with Hunter, it was a situation where he's really difficult to score on, and it was a good matchup with him and Cooper Hornack in the Super Regional. And Louis Gill just had an outstanding tournament there in Hershey, and just did a phenomenal job with the funkiness that he brings. And Hunter, I talked to him a little bit about it whenever I interviewed him. He kind of had a little bit of redemption himself this year, because he was in one of those situations where he lost the postseason last year, because if you recall, he was a guy that was he was at General McLean, and then he transferred from General McLean to Quaker Valley and ended up being ruled ineligible there. So he missed the postseason last year, wasn't able to really show what he could do last year. So it was a long time coming back for him to get through back to that postseason. And that's what I asked him. I'm like, man, what would you, I'm sure everybody was sweating out COVID and, whether or not you're going to have a season. But imagine if you had missed out on last postseason and then wouldn't have had a season this year. And that's what he said. He said, yeah, that was, I've been really anxious to get back and get back into the postseason. But, you got to, if not, you just keep training and build for what's next. So great attitude out of Hunter, and the way he kind of looked at those challenges that were in his path in getting to this postseason.
Yeah, and you look at both these wrestlers, and I think both these wrestlers, they definitely have a lot to prove, right? With Carson Wagner coming in number 1 in the state, Hunter Robeson coming in. And he was number 1 in the state coming into the state tournament, I do believe, because he won the West Super Region, and the East Super Regional champion was Chase Burke from Benton, because he beat Brandon Wenzel from Montoursville, who was a returning state champion. So Brandon Wenzel ends up beating Robeson 3-1 in sudden victory in the consolation semifinals. So, for Hunter Robeson, he loses to Louis Gill 5-2, who ends up having a great tournament. Loses to him 5-2, but then loses to the returning state runner, our final state champion, Brandon Wenzel, in sudden victory, bounces back to take 5th. So, I think both these guys, Eric, just have a ton to prove, and I'm so glad each of them took this match.
Yeah, and as you said, this will be a really fun one here. Hunter Robeson, as I said, he's a guy that can be really difficult sometimes to score on. We saw that with the Cooper Hornack match in the Super Regional. We saw it again in the state tournament. He wins the first round matchup 3-1. He did have the 5-2 loss to Gill, who, as I said, is really funky and kind of difficult to score on. So that was kind of a bad matchup for him there. But then he drops down and he ends up going 3-1 was the loss to Wenzel in sudden victory. So no shame in that. And then he ends up winning another one 3-1. So it's Hunter Robeson. That he's going to be in tight matches and he's comfortable there. That's not an issue with him, but he's able to kind of grind it out aside from that Louis Gill match.
Yeah, two guys who I'm really excited to see, because I think they both just really have a lot to prove to themselves and and to really themselves. So let's go up to our next match, and really I don't have I want to say I don't have a card for it, but I do. Cole Spencer from Pine Richland and Bailey Gimber from Hamburg. So Cole Spencer. Now, again, we talked about the Gimber twins and Bailey and Dalton. Bailey, on the other hand, his brother was a state finalist, and you look at what happened in his senior season. I thought he had a great end of the postseason until the state tournament. So he finishes second in the East Super Region. Bailey Gimber was second to Holden Garcia. Holden Garcia had a great Super Region, finishing ahead of Avery Bassett and Nolan Lear. Bailey Gimber, he comes out to the state semifinals, beating your boy Oleg from Carlington, loses to AJ Corrado 3-1 in the state semifinals. He ends up coming back, beats Ryan Wyant from Forest Hills, loses to Nolan Lear from Benton. So I think for Bailey Gimber, it was a good end to his career. Just based on the fact that it was his first state medal and it ended up being a fourth. And you look at the power there at that weight class. That was a loaded weight class. AJ Corrado, Avery Bassett, Nolan Lear, right? 3 guys that have all been on the medal stand previously. Bailey Gimber had been not. Bailey Gimber coming up a couple weights. I thought he had a really good end of his career, and especially being a guy like Ryan Wyant, who's a returning state medalist going to Lock Haven. And for Bailey, he's going to F&M with his twin brother. On the other side, you have Cole Spencer, Pine Richland wrestler, Pine Richland football player. He's the star quarterback. He's the star, right? He had a good season, right? He loses to Avery Bassett. He loses to him in the Midwinter Mayhem, bangs up his shoulder in that match. He guts it out for the rest of the year, despite with the shoulder injury. Wrestles all the way through the state tournament. In fact, he comes in as the West Super Regional champion, had a great postseason, beats Ethan Rickner in the West Super Regional finals. 23-1 coming into the state medal round. His only loss was to Avery Bassett. Loses to Jack McGill 5-2 in the semifinals. That was the number 2 versus number 3 in the state, Eric. And let's not forget, McGill nearly knocked off Jagger Condomiti, who's ranked top 5 in the nation. Cole Spencer comes back to take third, and in his career, a 3-time state medalist, finishing 8th as a freshman. As a junior, he was 4th in the state. Now as a senior, he's 3rd in the state. So you have 2 guys that are seniors, both going to great institutions to continue their academic and athletic careers. They finished 3rd and 4th in the state respectively. I think this is going to be a war between these two. The only question I have is Cole Spencer healthy? And, the shoulder would say, after what I saw at the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic, he's ready to go.
Yeah. Who did he have? Remind me again. Who did he have in the Classic there? Was he in the Whippeal?
Yeah,
match?
he was on the Whippeal team. Yeah, Harrison Trahan, also from Pennsylvania.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah, that's right. Spencer, he's obviously a guy. Both of these guys are ones that we've known about for a while. As you said, with Spencer, he's the multi-sport athlete, just really athletic, can do a lot of different things. And Gimbor, as you said, is a guy who's been around forever. He and his brother, just seem to be everywhere and always showing up to wrestle. And I think they're going to do exactly that here with Cole Spencer. I think this should be a fun one.
And Eric, it's again, you look at the comparables. These two both wrestled Avery Bassett this year. So again, Cole Spencer wrestled him all the way back at a Midwinter Mayhem. He loses to him 4-2. Bailey wrestles Avery Bassett. He loses to him 13-0 on the 5th of March. Then comes back and beats him 4-3 on the 6th of March. I don't know how you go from a 13-0 on
maybe it was the Reese's Cups for him too.
Well, I apologize. That was a year later. I think I said it in the same year. It was a year late. It was a year, but yes, you're right. I don't know how. I mean, that you look at the progression in a year from March 5th, 2020 to March 6th, 2021. You lose 13-0 to Avery Bassett, then beat him 4-3. That's a huge turnaround for a guy. So I think Bailey's. Him and Dalton, I thought, just had great ends of the year. Great ends of their career. So I'm excited just to see how these two match up, because Cole Spencer looked so good at the at the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic. It's we didn't really get to see a whole lot of him because he wrestled. I think he got a pin in I I think it was the second period. It was early on, and we haven't really been able to see him a whole lot. Eric, I
Yeah.
think I missed one, right?
Yeah. We skipped Ty Linsenbigler and Nathan Higley, didn't we?
Okay, well, let me get that up there. So did I go out of order? So yeah, so Ty Linsenbigler.
Yeah, we missed 12.
So Ty Linsenbigler, Nathan Higley is match 12. Cole Spencer and Bailey Gimber is match 13. So I will go back. I apologize.
You were just trying to eliminate the unlucky 13, right? You were just giving us two 12s.
Actually, this is probably one of my favorite matchups, Nathan Higley and Ty Linsenbigler. And you see the photos that we used here. Both these guys are mat wrestlers. Both these guys love to wrestle in scramble positions. Both of them are not afraid to mix it up, take risks. Ty Linsenbigler from Hempfield, just an incredible career he's had there. He's going to Lock Haven. Nathan Higley, of course, this year was second in the state. No shame in where he finished. He finished second behind Levi Haynes. But the key for me for Nathan Higley was he had a tough state tournament. He beats Cooper Warshaw in the first round, wins in tiebreaker 2 against Caden Berger of Reynolds. That was a very, very highly contested match between them. And then he gets pinned by Levi Haynes, but he came out swinging against Levi Haynes. He didn't go out, and just lay down for him.
Yeah, I mean, no shame in that. I mean, we've seen Levi Haynes. Nothing to be ashamed about there. And as you said, he went out attacking. It wasn't, oh, well, maybe I can lose close. It's, hey, I'm going to go out and give it everything and go for a win. And, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But there's no sense just retreating and trying to keep it low scoring.
So, and you look at each of these two's careers. So, they've kind of taken a little bit similar paths. So Ty Linsenbigler from Hempfield, he has a total of, I believe, and I just said this at the Classic, 148 wins. So almost 150 wins. He was a state qualifier his freshman year, had a great freshman campaign, then finishes 4th, 5th, and 3rd. So you got to figure, you finished 4th in the state as a sophomore, there's a pretty darn good chance you're going to win a state title. He battles with John Altieri back and forth this year. He's just in a very deep weight class where a guy by the name of Wyatt Henson is. He finishes 3rd after, losing to a guy he ends up beating the second time around. Linsenbigler had a great end to his career, winning there and then also winning in the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic. However, I feel like he still has a little bit of unfinished business to do. And you look at Nathan Higley, this is a guy from Sullivan County who we saw at the Surge several years ago. He was 6th in the state as a freshman, qualifier as a sophomore, 4th and 2nd. So, and he has 137 wins. So very similar paths. All three, both of them are 3-time state medals, 6th, 4th, 2nd for Higley. I just think they're going to go after each other. I really do. I think these two are just going to, I think they're going to see a lot of points scored on the board. I think you're going to see some fun action here. And, I think both of them are just ready to rock and roll. And, I'm excited for this match, Eric.
Yeah, and you mentioned about Higley, 6th as a freshman, and kind of the same thing there. You mentioned with Linsenbigler, you're thinking, okay, maybe this is a guy that can win a state title, especially when that was at 132 as a freshman. So, pretty solid showing there at that weight, and then doesn't grow that much, is still a 45-pounder a couple years later, but coming up short there in the finals. I'm sure that one's gonna sting a little bit, and he's looking for a little redemption.
Yeah, and we talked about the college commitments here. Frank Beasley from George Mason, he had 2 in the state finals in Double-A, right? He had Nathan Higley, and he also had Avery Bassett. And he's probably one of our. We talked about him on our last show when we talked. We talked about.
Do we get a Frank Beasley reference in every show?
We have quite a few. Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few that we have in there. Nathan Higley, I think he's I think he's a good recruit. I think he's a guy who's gonna make a lot of noise. And at 145 pounds, he loses to Haynes 2 weeks in a row, right? He loses in the Super Region. That's his only loss coming into the state tournament, and loses to the state finals. But for Ty, again, you're in such a deep weight class. That 145-pound weight class in AAA was so deep. You have Wyatt Henson, you have John Altieri. Ty Linsenbigler loses. I don't know if you remember this, Eric, or not, because I know it was a blur. He loses to Sam McMonagle 9-4 in that first match. And this was what I was saying earlier. He loses to him 9-4. You know, I thought it was probably going to be a 3 Whippeal guys in the state semifinals. I thought it was probably going to be Linsenbigler versus Henson, and Altieri versus Bauer. It ends up being 2 guys from District 1, so shout out Joe Youngblood. Sam McMonagle upsets Ty Linsenbigler, and Connor Eck beats Riley Bauer. You come down, Ty Linsenbigler ends up beating Sam McMonagle 3-2 in the second tiebreaker. So, again, we talked about flipping the script on somebody. Loses to him 9-4 just a couple hours earlier, comes back and beats him for third place to finish the highest on the podium. I know he was very excited because he said at the Classic when we interviewed him, you know, I didn't want to finish 4th 2 years in a row. You know, I wanted to get, you know, I didn't want to finish 4th twice. I wanted to get to that third place finish, which he did. And, you know, I think it's a testament to him and how he finished his career, Eric.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's tough whenever you lose that one to bounce back, but that's a great attitude that, hey, I've got the 4th already. Let's see if we can get that 3rd place instead.
So our second to last match, we talked about it, but we don't have a graphic for it, and I'm going to tell you why. Because Scott Green refuses to send me a headshot of Davis Motika. He's like, you know what? I'm not gonna. He sent me one so he sent me a headshot of him for the top incoming freshman, and he's wearing like a parka. He's wearing a winter jacket, but it's like up over his head, like you can barely see it. You know, you can barely see that it's him. So I said, hey, you know, can I have another photo? Maybe one of him in a singlet, you know, because remember they didn't wrestle this year, so it's not like I shot him or, you know, anyone, you know, took any photos of him this year. So I have no photo of Motika yet. I have plenty of Bo Bassett. I mean, my gosh, I probably have more Bo Bassett pictures than I do Spencer Lee pictures, because I feel like he's just everywhere. So I don't have a card for it. However, this one's going to be a good match, Eric. And I know you've talked with Bo's dad about these two and their history. You know, Davis is a little bit more undersized. We just saw Bo win a PJW, or I mean, I guess it's not a PJW, a PA state title at 103 pounds. Davis Motika is probably more like a 98, 99 pounder, right? So maybe even 100 pounds. So he's a little bit undersized. He actually wrestled in the Journeyman tournament this past weekend as well in freestyle. Had a good showing there. So, Eric, what can you tell us about this matchup between these two from previous times?
I believe they've met quite a few times in the past. Once for a state title, I think, in PJW, and another time in the semis. And I believe they wrestled at Super 32 a couple years ago, the Northeast Regional Finals for freestyle. So it's been, you know, a lot of times that these two have met before. And I don't know. Do you know, has Bo won all of those? Have they gone back and forth at all, or has it been kind of one-sided in favor of Bo?
I believe Bo has won every match. I do believe that, but I'm going to have to go back and look at the PJW, because I remember the PJW state title between these two, because Davis, you know, is a guy who I feel like his name's just been around forever. You know, he's been in a lot of different tournaments throughout his youth career. So, you know, I'm not surprised to, you know, get confused at when he wrestled Bo in the state finals. I know Bo won that match. But I do believe Bo has won every match, but I believe they've been close. You know, I don't believe this is going to be, you know, we talked about it with True Power. You know, I think, you know, Bo's on a different level right now. However, you know, Davis isn't going to just fall over, right? Davis is going to come out and throw the kitchen sink at him, if you will. And you know, this is our youngest card, and our lightest match on the card. So I'm just, you know, they're going to score points. And when Bo Bassett's on the mat, watch out, because the kid scores points in bunches, right?
Yeah, absolutely. He got a tech fall in his state championship match over the weekend. So, you know, it's not unusual for that to happen for him. He's going out to score a lot of points and do it quickly.
So you look at the, you know, these matchups and you know, Bo Bassett, yeah, he may be favored in it, but I don't think, you know, I certainly don't think Davis is going to go out and just lay down like, you know, like, oh, I don't have a shot. You know, he took the match for a reason. Bo Bassett, what did you say he did at I'll call it the Keystone State Championships. I apologize, the Keystone State Championships. What did he end up doing? Did he tech fall? Did he major his way through the?
He got a tech fall in the finals. Yeah, he wasn't really tested at all. I don't think anybody lasted the full match with him.
Okay, I didn't.
I'd have to look it up. Like I said, I know in the final he got a tech. I don't think anybody else pushed him to the distance.
Gotcha. And I'm just looking here at Davis Motika. So he ended up winning the journeyman tournament I told you at. He won 3 matches in that tournament at 101 pounds. So he wrestled 101 this last weekend, and Bo wrestled 103. So comparables between the two. And I'm gonna have to look up that year that it was. If Nate Cobbler, if you're still listening, look up that year for us. The year that Bo Bassett and Davis Motika wrestled in the state finals in PJWs, because I'd like to find that. I'd like to find that because I want to see what that result was. Those are our matches. We talked about Mason Gibson and Brennan Cernus, so we're going to end with 2 Wyoming Seminary guys back to back, and 2 Bishop McCourt guys back to back.
Guys.
Yeah.
So I got to ask, did Mason, was it a requirement that he be the last match?
Of course it was.
If he was going to take part.
Of course it was. Are you kidding me?
Because he kept running around before. He's like, hey, how come I'm not the last match? I should be the last match.
So,
the people who don't know Mason, I mean, Mason is awesome. He's got the most infectious personality. He's always, just always on the go. And so we kid a lot with Mason, but yeah, he absolutely wants to be that last match, and he wants to be the spotlight one, and have everybody waiting to see him.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you asked like it was a question, like whether he was going to be a last match or not. Like, darn well, Mason Gibson just loves the limelight, and you know what? I love it because he wants it. Give it to him, right? I mean, I love the way he wrestles. I like how he just approaches things, and yes, can he be a little over ambitious? Sure, yeah. But no, I'm excited to end with him, and here's the thing, he's going to put on a show, right? He's going to come in, and he's going to put on a show, and I think this is going to be a really good matchup between these two. Both these guys are highly rated. I think they are guys that are looking to, for Mason Gibson, he's the higher ranked guy in the state, or in the nation, but I don't think it sits well with him what happened to him in the state finals. And I think he's over it now, but I also think that it's something that still kind of bothers him a little bit, and I think he has a lot to prove here. And I actually, as we were talking, I pulled up the PJW state tournament. So let me see if I have that right.
You looking for the Bassett one?
Yeah.
Because I did find that.
What did you find?
Yeah, he went 16-0, 16-0, 17-1, 15-0, 22-6, and 20-5.
Okay.
So yeah, all tech falls.
So I was talking about the time they wrestled.
Oh, when the final was. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So that's okay. I'm looking it up now, and I believe I just had it. He beat him in the semifinals. I lost it. I'll find it and I'll tweet it out. But yeah, these two have some history together. So it should be a lot of fun. I'm going to put up the final card one more time just while we're wrapping up to talk about things. So again, April 10th, that's this Saturday, in State College. We have a very, very, very limited of in-person tickets available. Really, I want to make sure that the wrestlers get their families and friends in. But we are going to open it up to the general public. Excuse me. 4:00 is when we kick off. So Nate Wickersham, Josh Harkless kick off things at 4:00. We end with Mason Gibson and Brennan Cernus. It's gonna be a whole heck of a lot of fun, Eric. We're excited for it. It's our first time being up at the C3 Sports venue. Nittany Lion Wrestling Club has been there a whole bunch. I loved the way that they've had their setups there, and we're hoping to have a very good setup as well. So yeah, it's it's going to be a lot of fun. And again, 15 matches that are really all across the spectrum. You got young guys, you got older guys, you've got guys that have been, you know, in the state finals. You have guys that haven't been in the state tournament before. There's a lot of good mix here, Eric, and I'm just really excited for it.
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, that's kind of what makes these things fun is when you see a lot of matchups that we don't normally get to see. When you've got that AA versus AAA, you've got a senior versus a freshman, you've got a preps guy versus a public school guy. It's a lot of fun to see those. And just, frankly, after all that we've been through in the past year, any wrestling we can get, Jeff, let's jump on it and say, yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we're fortunate, right? I mean, we're fortunate to have this happen, and we're fortunate to have the support of the different wrestling fans and folks out there, because without them, we wouldn't be able to bring this to you. And I know we're just really excited to bring you this action, because it's going to be a lot of fun. We've got a lot of good matches. I think we're going to see a lot of good action throughout. I was really excited with the Pittsburgh Wrestling Classic. Eric, I know you weren't able to be there, but we had such good wrestling there, between the Whippeal and Maryland, even though the Whippeal just dominated that one, and Team PA and Team USA. There was just a lot of good wrestling. As I was watching it, I just kept on, I kept thinking, like, man, I hope the redemption is just as good, right? I hope the redemption is has as much action and really good matches, because even Isaiah Vance right off the bat, him and Kayonte Hamilton, I mean, they put up a show, and I'm thinking, man, I hope we can do that again in a few weeks, Eric.
Yeah, that one started with a bang, didn't it? I mean, that was a phenomenal way to get things going. If we can deliver that in the first match, I'll be thrilled.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Eric, anything else before we jump off? And we're how do you watch? You watch on Rokfin, so go to rokfin.com/PA Power Wrestling and make sure you subscribe to PA Power Wrestling to watch this. And again, we're going to have a limited number of tickets available. I will put out the information for that, but Saturday's a big day for us, Eric. I'm excited and can't wait for it to happen.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Like you, I haven't been to C3 yet. I'm excited to see that, put on a really great event, and see some awesome wrestling.
And wait till you see the singlets. I know you've seen the singlets, Eric, but wait till you see the singlets that they get from Blue Chip. They are sick, and I don't normally use that word, but that's a word I like to use to describe them. They're pretty sweet. They're so sweet that Tristan Warner, our announcer for the Redemption Duel, wants one, and I told him, stick to the Scooby-Doo, right? Stick to the Scooby-Doo singlet when you wrestled, your buddy.
My favorite story.
Best story of the world. If you haven't heard that one.
Love the Scooby-Doo story.
Best story ever. He's wrestling John Reeder and just absolutely mauled, and he's wearing a Scooby-Doo singlet. There's that, right? So maybe Tristan does get a redemption singlet if he's lucky. Saturday.
Maybe we could get Reeder's right around there, right? Maybe we can get a redemption match between those two.
What do you mean he's right around where?
We can get Reeder to come over. We'll get Tristan there and have a match between them.
I don't think Tristan's gonna want that. I mean, I love you, Tristan, but I don't know if he's gonna want. I don't think he wants that smoke. I don't think that's gonna happen. Yeah. So Saturday, 4:00 action will start off, but we have a pre-game show starting early. Before that, around 3:45, we're gonna go live. So that way you can get a little bit of a taste of what's to come, get to see the venue a little bit, and Chris Smith and Greg Warnock going to preview each of these matches. We're going to have Hannah Mears there on site. She's going to do an amazing job. I'm just excited. It's going to be a ton of fun and a lot of good matches, 15 matches that you're not going to want to miss, Eric. So until the next time we see you, which will be Saturday, it better be Saturday. If you miss this one, I don't know why you're even bothering, because this is going to be some of the best wrestling you're going to see all off season. So make sure you're there. Again, rokfin.com/PA Power Wrestling. You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the fun places. And until Saturday, stay classy, wrestling fans. We'll see.